Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel, and as usual, when it comes to the summer, transfer season is full of rumours, full of names being thrown towards Celtic left, right and centre. Every Tom, Dick and Harry under the sun is apparently going to become a Celtic player, but today I want to take a wee bit of time to talk about some players from the past who have been getting linked with Celtic quite a fair bit, and it's starting to do my boxing. Hello, if you haven't already, please make sure to hit like and subscribe. It would be much appreciated through the summer months as we have some quiet news days, such as today. But we're going to create some conversation because I think there's a conversation to be had. Today's video is going to be one of those more raw videos where I just kind of rant for 10 minutes and give my opinion on certain things. And it's more to do with some players from Celtic's past being linked with the club once more. This happens every single year, and it gets more tedious as the years go by. So, let's talk about that, shall we? So, over the past few days, a certain former Celtic player has been getting linked rather heavily with a return to Celtic. His name has been in multiple news articles. His name has been non-stop on my Twitter feed. Every time I refresh, there's a post about him, someone begging him to come back. That player, that individual, is none other than the great Odsonne Edouard. A fantastic Celtic striker, one of my favourite strikers in recent times, and somebody who undoubtedly I would have at Celtic in a heartbeat if the opportunity was there. What we have to do now for a moment is sit down and get over it. Just like many other Celtic players or former Celtic players I should say, whose names are doing the rounds and links with the club, we have to get over it. Every single year we go through this exact same rigmarole where players that used to play for us are being linked with the club. People get their hopes up and think it's realistic for them to come back. It's like there's no other players that exist in the world. If you played for Celtic, that's the qualification. That means you're back. That means that's who we should be signing. And that doesn't necessarily apply to Edouard. I think he's someone who's obviously good enough to play for Celtic once more, and I'd kill for it. But there's a lot of factors involved here which automatically make it near impossible for us to sign Edouard again, and we're going to come on to that. But we are at a point in time where, honestly, I think if there was a possibility to sign 50-year-old Henrik Larsson to sign for Celtic, fans would be calling for it. It just seems like that as soon as there's a cheap and easy option to go for, if they played for Celtic, we'll do it. But in the case of Odsonne Edouard, this isn't a cheap nor easy option. So this whole Odsonne Edouard thing that is popping up just now and is constantly being spoke about by fans on the internet, it's came from nothing really. Nothing with a whole lot of source to it or credibility. All I can see and all I can figure out is one Twitter post from a Crystal Palace fan which has linked us with the player, which has now spawned tons of articles for cheap and lazy journalism. This is the post that I'm talking about. It was from a page called Counter Pressers, who was going through the whole Crystal Palace squad and who could be leaving their club this season. They said this about Odsonne Edouard, that according to his Celtic source, unnamed, there is mega interest for a return to Glasgow with an estimated fee of £8 million being discussed. Palace may be able to recover more of the fee paid by selling him to a more established European side who may be interested. So this is where it's all started. This post here from a random Twitter account who has an anonymous Celtic source. For goodness sake, I could be the Celtic source. You know, it's not hard for somebody to support Celtic to go out and say, oh, aye, the fans are interested in Edouard coming back, but I don't know if there's genuine interest from the club. It's also not helped, of course, with his recent appearance at the Player of the Year ceremonies where Celtic had former players come in to present awards. Odsonne Edouard was, of course, there, which spurred well, maybe there's a chance of Edouard coming back sort of conversation, where really he was just there because it was a celebration of former Player of the Year winners. It wasn't that deep. Aye, we could all have a laugh and a joke and say Brendan might have been in his ear to try and get him back up the road. But this article, or this post, sorry, that said that there's an estimated fee of £8 million being thrown about has already been rubbished. Because today, an article from down south in London, the home of Crystal Palace of course, have reported this, that Crystal Palace will be looking for a fee of around £20 million for Odsonne Edouard. £20 million. is what Crystal Palace are looking for. Of course, they signed him for roughly 15, 16 million pounds from us, I'm sure. So obviously they want to try and make profit. Now I know that he's going into the last year of his contract, so maybe they will have to lower their expectations a little bit from £20 million. Has he been performing like a £20 million player? Probably not. They're probably not going to get 20 million for him, but it still means it's a hell of a long way away for Celtic to try and afford him. Also keep in mind that if the internet is to be believed, Odsonne Edouard is roughly on £90,000 a week. £90,000, which is probably double, at least double, what our highest earner is on at Celtic. I'd assume that our highest earner, probably Callum McGregor since his captain, is on a max of £50,000 a week, and I think even £50,000 is ambitious. So you think that Odsonne Edouard of Crystal Palace is going to come for not only a fee of £20 million, but he's also going to have more than half his wages to come back to Celtic, because Celtic aren't going to go over the odds and pay him, break the entire wage structure to bring him back, when we're already looking at different striking options. You need to get over it. I don't like being the bearer of bad news. I don't like to be the killjoy of the party. I'm trying to remain as optimistic and as positive a Celtic fan as I can heading into this summer transfer window. But there are some players and some situations which are just totally unfeasible, and one of them is Odsonne Edouard coming back. The only way that he could possibly come back to us is if we somehow arranged a loan deal, which I assume that Crystal Palace would have absolutely no interest in whatsoever. Celtic have the option to go and try and strike a permanent deal for Adam Idah, which is talking about a fee of around £6 million. They're happy with Idah. Rodgers is happy with Idah. The fans last week were perfectly content with Idah coming back. And now, because Edouard's name has been thrown out there by a random Twitter article with no substance whatsoever, he's the guy now. That's who we need to bring back. Listen, I would love Odsonne Edouard to be a Celtic player again. I would love it so much. He was quality. He's definitely better than Adam Idah. You would be nuts to suggest that you would take Adam Idah over Odsonne Edouard. You might personally want that, but Edouard is just a better player. We've seen how good a player Edouard is. But in this situation, being realistic, of course Idah's going to be the option that Celtic try and pursue. And there is no way we're going to be able to go and afford Odsonne Edouard. So this whole thing that we go through every year, this whole hullabaloo, where we make up that all these former players should be coming back to the club, it has to stop. He's not the only one. We're going to come on to another couple in a moment. He's not the only one that people have spoke about this window, but why every year does our fans insist on bringing back players from the past? We're a club whose intentions are to move forward, to try and progress. Yeah, we want to be ambitious in these windows, but there's some things that are just not feasible, and it might be heartbreaking, it might be tough to hear, and you might call me all the bastards under the sun for trying to be the killjoy, but it's just the truth. It's just how these things work. If Odsonne Edouard leaves Crystal Palace this summer, he's going to be going on for a healthy fee somewhere. There's probably going to be a number of clubs across the continent who would be interested in him. He might return home to France. It's just not going to be Celtic. And you need to let it go. I'm perfectly happy with Adam Idah coming in permanently. Maybe Celtic exploring the opportunity of signing another striker should all leave the club as well. Enhance the options as much as we can. But it's got to be to a realistic point. You can't get your hopes up of us trying to go and get a player like Crystal Palace value at £20 million. Yeah, he's fallen off the radar a little bit recently. The emergence of Jean-Philippe Mateta in recent months has just knocked Edouard's place completely out the question. That doesn't mean that he's automatically guaranteed a place at Celtic Football Club. We just won't make that happen. It just breaks all boundaries that Celtic have in place when it comes to transfers and wage structure. It's not feasible. And as I said, he's not the only one. Every single year we hear about Kieran Tierney, his name again popping up. It was reported over the last couple of days that he has been placed on the transfer list at Arsenal. He will not be an Arsenal player next season should they be able to find him a move. And as it happens every single year, would you take him back at Celtic? Hopefully he comes back to Celtic. Kieran Tierney is of course a die-hard Celtic fan. Arsenal aren't going to give him away for nothing. That's not how business works. Kieran Tierney is also, once again, let's talk about wages for a moment. He's on £110,000 a week with Arsenal. £110,000 a week, and Celtic would probably once again be able to offer him what, tops 50,000. That's how they're going to go with the wage structure. He's going to cut 60,000 quid off his wages and come back to Celtic for a fee that Celtic probably won't want to pay for a left back who's injured constantly. Once again, I reiterate, I absolutely adore Kieran Tierney. Would I love to see him back in a Celtic shirt? Yes, but sometimes you've got to just move your wants and your passions aside to look at how realistic things are. Tierney's not coming back, and it happens every bloody year, this conversation. Do I think Kieran Tierney will play for Celtic once again one day? Yes, I do. I think it will happen when the time is right and the stars align for it to happen. He's currently valued at £12 million by Transfermarkt. Arsenal will want to try and get some money out of it, considering they paid £25 million for the boy. Do you think he's going to be coming to Celtic? Ask yourself that seriously. No, not anytime soon. In the future, maybe when his contract expires somewhere, maybe when the stock is kind of diminished a little bit and the wages go down gradually. Yeah, but not right now at this moment in time. And then finally, there's Stuart Armstrong. Stuart Armstrong's another one who's been popping up left, right and centre just because he's been released from Southampton. That means he's coming back to Celtic and everybody's on social media calling for it to happen. Stuart Armstrong was a great player. If you've watched me long enough, you'll know how much I love Stuart Armstrong. I was gutted when he left Celtic because I thought he was a Rolls Royce of a player. I thought he was somebody who was going to be really, really hard to replace. 32-year-old Stuart Armstrong is not a signing Celtic should be making. He was actually quite good with Southampton this past season, I'll give you that. But where's the long-term vision there? Stuart Armstrong's not going to be able to come in and sit on the bench. Are you telling me Stuart Armstrong at 32 years of age, who's just been playing in the Championship with England, is the guy who should be coming in to replace Matt O'Reilly? That's going to be the guy that helps prepare us to a new level and try to take us forward in Europe. No, it's not going to be Stuart Armstrong. Of course it's not. He would be coming in and giving us maybe the last year or two that he has at this level. We'd be giving him a hefty wage because he would demand a hefty wage. For him to sit on either the bench or play for a year and then go to the bench and then move on and then retire or leave, whatever. It would not be a logical signing. It goes against, the whole structure of how we sign players. We like to sign young and sell on. And I would like to see experience coming in, but I don't think Stuart Armstrong is necessarily the experience that we need right now. I think we need experience in areas where we need leaders, where we need players at the back maybe. We need a defensive sort of player. I don't think necessarily Stuart Armstrong's going to come in and offer us something that we don't have at the minute. We've got Rio Hatate. Right now we have Matt O'Reilly who will leave. We want to bring in Paulo Bernardo. We don't need to go and pay a hefty wage to Stuart Armstrong at the minute, but because he's a free agent, because he's been released by Southampton, it means that we must sign him apparently. It does my box in. Now I know a lot of you will be watching this video and thinking, Ryan, you are a greeting-faced bastard. I know I am. I'm a greeting-faced bastard, but I just don't see why we have this same conversation every year. It was the same with Mohamed El Younousi. It was the same with, Fraser Forster. It's been the same with so many players. Why is there such an inability amongst the Celtic support to let players go, to let it go? We don't need to constantly cling on to the past. And I don't understand why, when there's a world of football players out there from all over, from Northern Europe to Eastern Europe to South America to Japan, this whole constant, huge, ever-growing globe, and we need to sign the players who played for us a few years ago. Why? Why should that be our scouting policy? And luckily it's not. The good thing is, every year this is genuinely just the fans that start each window with this conversation and this aspiration for the window. And then obviously it never turns out like that. But we need to learn our lesson and just being able to let them go. They're no coming back. So, there's my rant. Rant over. I just had to make this video today. I've even seen people suggesting that Christopher Ajer could come back next season, which don't even get me started on. That one's that's ludicrous. That's absolute nonsense. Listen, I'll happily sit here with egg in my face if any of these players come back to Celtic. It's not, let's take Armstrong, I just have no interest in seeing coming back, personally, right? I don't have any interest in it. Tierney, Edouard, two guys who I'd happily watch play for Celtic again. If they did somehow come back to Celtic this summer, I'll happily sit with the egg on my face and say that I was wrong. But you've got to get real. You've got to get real when you're having these conversations. And when you're drawing up your mock-ups with a team of players, and you've got Tierney over at left back, and you've got Kyogo up front with Edouard, have a word. It's not happening. It is not happening. Celtic will do their business in the same fashion they always do, and that will be sign cheap and aim to sell high. I've accepted that reality, and I thought by now everybody else would as well. So I ran over. So there we go. Like and subscribe. If you don't hate me after killing your hopes and dreams, let me know your thoughts in the comments below. But I just had to get all of it off my chest, to be quite honest. To be frank. Yeah, I'll see y'all next time.